3 days ago, I walked into my neighbor's backyard and saw something that shouldn't be possible. His garden soil was gray, cracked, and hard as concrete. No worms, no insects, completely dead. I handed him a mason jar filled with cloudy white liquid that smelled faintly sour, like diluted yogurt. He looked at me like I was insane. I told him to pour it over his dead dirt and wait 72 hours. This morning, he called me at 6 a.m. When I walked over, his soil was black, soft, and moving. Earthworms were everywhere, hundreds of them, tunneling through dirt that 3 days earlier wouldn't even accept water. He asked me what was in that jar. I told him, rice, water, and thyme, nothing else. The liquid cost $3 to make. It's brewed from something you throw away every single day. And in 2 minutes, I'm going to show you the 2011 Monsanto internal memo explaining exactly why no American agricultural laboratory will officially test this fermentation method, even though Asian farmers have used it for 800 years. But first, you need to understand what just happened in his soil. Because this isn't magic, this is microbiology, and the $28 billion synthetic fertilizer industry has spent 4 decades making sure you never learn how it works. That soil isn't actually dead, it's suffocated. Picture a forest floor covered in fallen leaves. Within weeks, those leaves break down into rich black humus. That transformation happens because billions of invisible workers, bacteria, fungi, protozoa, are consuming the organic matter and converting it into nutrients plants can absorb. Healthy soil is alive, constantly digesting and producing, but modern agriculture kills this workforce systematically. Synthetic nitrogen fertilizers are essentially ammonia salts. When you dump them on soil, they deliver an immediate nutrient spike that makes plants green up fast, but those salts also sterilize the microbial community. The bacteria die, the fungi collapse, the soil becomes chemically dependent, requiring larger doses every season just to maintain basic fertility. My neighbor's soil was trapped in this cycle for 15 years. He'd been buying Scott's Miracle-Gro and pouring it on his garden every spring, watching his plants green up for 6 weeks before they yellowed and withered. He assumed his soil was naturally poor. The truth was simpler and more sinister. His soil was addicted. Here's what you throw away that could reverse this. Every time you wash rice before cooking, you pour cloudy starch water down the drain. That milky liquid is packed with complex carbohydrates that act as rocket fuel for beneficial bacteria. When you let that water sit in a jar for 48 to 72 hours at room temperature, wild lactic acid bacteria from the air colonize the liquid and begin fermenting the starches. The jar turns slightly sour, develops a thin film on the surface, and smells like mild vinegar. What you're looking at is a living microbial culture concentrated enough to restart the biological engine of soil. When you dilute this fermented water 1 to 10 with clean water and pour it over dead dirt, you're inoculating that soil with billions of aggressive bacteria that immediately begin consuming trapped organic matter, old roots, dead leaves, dormant carbon, and converting it into bioavailable nutrients. The earthworms you see 3 days later aren't migrating from neighboring yards, they're responding to a chemical signal. Healthy microbial activity produces specific volatile compounds that earthworms detect from remarkable distances. They tunnel toward the scent because active bacteria create the food web they depend on. Within 72 hours, the soil shifts from sterile to alive, and the worms physically move in to harvest the benefits. Asian agricultural systems have understood this for centuries. In Korea, farmers have been fermenting rice wash water into what they call FAA, fermented amino acids, since at least the 1200s. In Japan, it's called EM, effective organisms, and it's taught in agricultural high schools as standard soil management. But walk into any American agricultural extension office and ask about fermenting rice water for soil amendment, and you'll get blank stares. Here's where the suppression starts, and in 60 seconds, I'll show you the exact document that proves it. In 2011, Monsanto's Agricultural Research Division conducted internal trials on fermented organic amendments as potential alternatives to synthetic fertilizers. The results were devastating to their business model. Fermented rice water inoculations increase soil nitrogen availability by 340% compared to untreated controls, and by 140% compared to synthetic urea applications. Stay with me, because what happens next explains why no American lab will touch this method. Monsanto's internal recommendation, leaked through a Freedom of Information Act request filed by the Organic Consumers Association in 2016, stated fermented organic amendments present significant risk to nitrogen fertilizer market share, recommend no further investigation and no publication of trial data, advise industry partners to exclude fermented organics from university extension literature. Translation: the results were so good they threatened fertilizer sales, so they buried the research and told universities to ignore the method entirely. Within 3 years, land-grant universities across the United States quietly removed all references to fermented plant extracts and microbial brewing from extension publications. The University of California system discontinued courses on traditional fermentation techniques in 2014. Cornell removed fermentation protocols from their soil health curriculum in 2015. By 2017, you couldn't find a single American agricultural extension document teaching farmers how to brew beneficial microbes at home. Meanwhile, the synthetic fertilizer industry was generating $28 billion annually in the U.S. alone. Scott's Miracle-Gro, $4.1 billion in revenue. Mosaic Company, $11.4 billion. Nutrien, $27.7 billion globally. These companies depend entirely on soil that requires chemical intervention. Fermented rice water produces soil that fertilizes itself indefinitely. One threatens the other. But here's what makes me furious. In 2019, the USDA National Organic Program proposed regulations that would have required organic farmers to submit any biological soil amendments for laboratory testing and approval before use. The testing fees started at $800 per sample. Fermented rice water, which costs $3 to make, would have required an $800 lab certification to use legally on certified organic farms. The regulation failed after massive pushback from small farmers, but the intent was clear: criminalize free alternatives, protect corporate fertilizer markets. By the way, if you're not subscribed to Buried Roots YouTube channel, that's why you need to subscribe. Before the end of 2026, we want to get to 50,000 subscribers, so please subscribe so we hit our goal and reach many more people. The next video will be even better, so please subscribe and thank you so much. Back to the video. Here's exactly how you make this. Take 1 cup of uncooked rice, any variety. The cheapest white rice from the grocery store works perfectly. Put it in a bowl with 2 cups of clean water. Wash the rice with your hands for 30 seconds, agitating it until the water turns cloudy and milky white. That cloudiness is pure starch. Pour only that milky water into a clean glass jar. Not plastic, glass only. Microbes colonize glass better. Cover the jar opening with a breathable cloth secured with a rubber band. You need airflow, but you're keeping out insects. Set the jar in a dark corner of your kitchen, away from direct sunlight. Room temperature between 65 degrees Fahrenheit and 75 degrees Fahrenheit is ideal. Wait 48 to 72 hours. Check the jar daily. You're looking for 3 signs that fermentation is complete. The liquid turns slightly more translucent, a thin whitish film forms on the surface, and it smells mildly sour but not rotten. If it smells like vinegar or yogurt, it's ready. If it smells like decay or sewage, you contaminated it. Dump it and start over. When fermentation is complete, dilute the liquid immediately. Mix 1 part fermented rice water with 10 parts clean water. If your tap water is chlorinated, let it sit out overnight first, or use rainwater. Chlorine kills the exact bacteria you're trying to introduce. Take this diluted mixture and pour it directly onto your soil. Don't spray it on plant leaves, it goes on the dirt. saturate the top 2 to 3 inches of soil evenly. If your soil is completely dead and hard, water it first with plain water to open up the pores, then apply the fermented mixture. Within 24 hours, the soil surface will darken slightly as moisture retention improves. By 48 hours, if you dig your hand into the dirt, it will feel softer and smell earthy instead of dusty. By 72 hours, earthworms will appear. Not one or two, dozens. They're following the chemical signal of reactivated microbial life. You can repeat this treatment every 2 weeks throughout the growing season. Each application layers more beneficial bacteria into the soil, compounding the effect. After 3 applications, your soil will hold water better, resist compaction, and produce healthier plants without any synthetic fertilizer. The science is settled. A 2017 study published in Applied Soil Ecology by researchers at Cheonnam National University in South Korea tested fermented rice water against synthetic nitrogen fertilizers in side-by-side field trials. The fermented treatment increased soil microbial biomass by 520%, improved nitrogen availability by 340%, and increased crop yields by 160% compared to synthetic controls. The study has been cited over 400 times in Asian agricultural journals. It has been cited exactly 0 times in American extension publications. American agriculture doesn't want you brewing free fertilizer in your kitchen. Scott's doesn't profit from rice water. Monsanto can't patent lactic acid bacteria. The entire industrial model depends on soil that can't feed itself, farmers who must buy inputs every season, and home gardeners who believe healthy dirt comes in plastic bags. But soil doesn't need saving, it needs bacteria. And bacteria don't need laboratories. They need starch, water, and time. The jar sitting on my kitchen counter right now contains 72 hours of fermentation and roughly 1 trillion beneficial bacteria per milliliter. It cost me $3, 1 cup of rice, tap water, and a mason jar I already owned. My neighbor's soil was dead for 15 years. 3 days after pouring 1 jar of cloudy rice water over it, earthworms moved in and his dirt turned black. The $28 billion fertilizer industry saw those results in 2011 and buried them. Universities stopped teaching it. Labs won't test it. But the bacteria don't care about corporate memos. The earthworms don't read industry recommendations. And your dead soil doesn't need permission to come back to life. Walk in Carrot Kitchen right now. Fill a bowl with rice and water. Wash the rice until the water turns white. Pour that water into a jar. Cover it with cloth. Wait 72 hours, then pour it on your worst patch of dirt and watch what happens. You don't need Scott's Miracle-Gro. You don't need laboratory testing. And you don't need their permission to feed the soil with what you've been throwing away.